my friends. I just realized how suspicious I looked when that camera came on. It's so angled so weird, and I'm afraid it's gonna tip over. Hold on, let me adjust myself. That's better. Good morning, friends. Happy Wednesday. It's the on planniest day of the week. If you started your New Year's resolution by saying, that's it, I'm going to be on plan and I'm going to stay 100% on plan today is the day where it could have been Wednesday again, where, a lot of us tend to fall off the bandwagon of our New Year's resolutions already by Wednesday. So today's the day you push through. All right, my friends, January 3rd. The flood covers the earth, Genesis 7, 1 through 22, 24, whatever. Genesis 1 through something. Genesis 7, not 1. This is starting out well this morning. Genesis 7, 1 through 24. When everything was ready, the Lord said to Noah, "Go into the boat with all of your family, for among all the people of the earth I can see that you alone are righteous. Take with you 7 pairs, male and female, of each animal I have approved for eating and for sacrifice, and take 1 pair of each of the others. Also take 7 pairs of every kind of bird. There must be a male and female in each pair to ensure that all life will survive on the earth after the flood. 7 days from now, I will make the rains pour down on the earth. It will rain for 40 days and 40 nights, until I have wiped from all the earth all the living things I have created." So Noah did everything as the Lord commanded. Noah was 600 years old when the flood covered the earth. He went on board the boat to escape the flood, he and his wife and his sons and their wives. With them were all kinds of various animals, those approved for eating and for sacrifice, and those that were not, along with all the birds and small animals that scurry along the ground. They entered the boat in pairs, male and female, just as God had commanded Noah. After 7 days, the waters of the flood came and covered the earth. When Noah was 600 years old, can you imagine those 7 days when all of the animals were loaded onto the boat and people around the boat were like, "Noah, it's not even raining. What are you doing?" When Noah was 600 years old, on the 17th day of the second month, all the underground waters erupted from the earth, and the rain fell in mighty torrents from the sky. The rain continued to fall for 40 days and 40 nights. That very day Noah had gone into the boat with his wife and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives. With them in the boat were pairs of every kind of animal, domestic and wild, large and small, along with the birds of every kind. 2 by 2 they came into the boat, representing every living thing that breathes. A male and female of each kind entered, just as God had commanded Noah. Then the Lord closed the door behind them. For 40 days the flood waters grew deeper, covering the grounds and lifting the boat high above the earth. As the waters rose higher and higher above the ground, the boat floated safely, on the surface. Finally, the water covered the highest mountains on the earth, rising more than 22 feet above the highest peaks. All the living things on earth died: birds, domestic animals, wild animals, small animals that scurry along the ground, and all people and all the people. Everything that breathed lived on dry Everything that breathed and lived on dry land died. God wiped out every living thing on the earth: people, livestock, small animals that scurry along the ground, and the birds of the sky. All were destroyed. The only people who survived were Noah and those with him in the boat, and the floodwaters covered the earth for 150 days. The flood recedes. Genesis 8, 1 through 22. But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and livestock with him in the boat. He sent a wind to blow across the earth, and the floodwaters began to recede. The underground waters stopped flowing, and the torrential rains from the sky were stopped. So the floodwaters gradually receded from the earth. After 150 days, exactly 5 months from the time the flood began, the boat came to a rest on Mount Ararat. 2.5 months later, as the waters continued to go down, other mountain peaks became visible. After another 40 days, Noah opened the window he had made in the boat and released a raven. The bird flew back and forth until the floodwaters on the earth had dried up. He also released a dove to see if the water had receded and it could find dry ground. But the dove could find no place to land because the water still covered the ground. So it returned to the boat, and Noah held out his hand and drew the dove back inside. After waiting for another 7 days, Noah released the dove again. This time the dove returned to him in the evening with a fresh olive leaf in its beak. Then Noah knew that the flood waters were almost gone. He waited another 7 days and then released the dove again. This time it did not come back. Noah was now 601 years old. On the first day of the new year, 10.5 months after the flood began, the flood waters had almost dried up from the earth. Noah lifted back the covering of the boat and saw that the surface of the ground was dry. 2 more months went by, and at last the earth was dry. Then God said to Noah, "Leave the boat, all of you, you and your wife, and your sons and their wives. Release all the animals, the birds, the livestock, and the small animals that scurry along the ground, so they can be fruitful and multiply throughout the earth." So Noah, his wife, and his sons and their wives left the boat, and all of the large and small animals and birds came out of the boat, pair by pair. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and there he sacrificed as a burnt offering the animals and the birds that had been approved for that purpose. And the Lord was pleased with the aroma of the sacrifice, and said to himself, "I will never again curse the ground because of the human race, even though everything they think or imagine is bent towards evil from childhood. I will never again destroy all living things. As long as the earth remains, there will be planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night." God's covenant with Noah, Genesis 9 1 through 17. Then God blessed Noah and his sons and told them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth. All the animals of the earth, all the birds of the sky, and all the small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the fish in the sea will look on you with fear and terror. I have placed them in your power. I have given them to you for food, just as I have given you grain and vegetables. But you must never eat any meat that still has lifeblood in it. And I will require the blood of anyone who takes another person's life. If a wild animal kills a person, it must die. And anyone who murders a fellow human must die. If anyone takes a human life, that person's life will also be taken by human hands. For God has made human beings in his own image. Now be fruitful and multiply and repopulate the earth." Then God told Noah and his sons, "I hereby confirm my covenant with you and your descendants, and with all the animals that were on the boat with you, the birds, the livestock, and all the wild animals. Every living creature on earth, yes, I am confirming my covenant with you. Never again will the floodwaters kill all living creatures. Never again will a flood destroy the earth." Excuse me. Then God said, "I am giving you a sign of my covenant with you and with all living creatures for all generations to come. I have placed my rainbow in the clouds. It is a sign of my covenant with you and with all the earth. When I send clouds over the earth, the rainbow will appear in the clouds, and I will remember my covenant with you and with all the living creatures. Never again will the floodwaters destroy all life. When I see a rainbow in the clouds, I will remember the eternal covenant between God and every living creature on earth." Then God said to Noah, "Yes, this rainbow is a sign of the covenant I am confirming with all of the creatures on earth." Noah's sons, Genesis 9:18 through 10:1. Then the sons of Noah who came out of the boat with their father were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham is the father of Canaan. From these three sons came all the people who now populate the earth. After the flood, Noah began to cultivate the ground, and he planted a vineyard. One day he drank some wine he had made and became drunk and lay naked inside his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw that his father was naked and went outside and told his brothers. Then Shem and Japheth took a robe, held it over their shoulders, and backed into the tent to cover their father. As they did this, they looked the other way so they would not see him naked. When Noah woke up from his stupor, he learned what Ham, the youngest son, had done. Then he cursed Canaan, the son of Ham. "May Canaan be cursed. May he be the lowest of servants to his relatives." Then Noah said, "May the Lord, the God of Shem, be blessed, and May Canaan be his servant. May God expand the territory of Japheth. May Japheth share the prosperity of Shem, and may Canaan be his servant." Noah lived another 350 years after the great flood. He lived 950 years, and then he died. This is the account of the families of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the three sons of Noah. Many children were born to them after the great flood. Descendants of Japheth, Genesis 10, 2 through 5. The descendants of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. Here we go with all the fun names. The descendants of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. The descendants of Javan were Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Rodanim. Their descendants became the seafaring peoples that spread out to various lands, each identified by its own language, clan, and national identity. 1 Chronicles 1, 5 through 7. The descendants of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. The descendants of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. The descendants of Javan were Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Rodanim. The descendants of Ham, Genesis 10, 6 through 20. The descendants of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. The descendants of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, and Sabteca. The descendants of Rama were Sheba and Dedan. Cush was also the ancestor of Nimrod, who was the first heroic warrior on earth. Since he was the greatest hunter in the world, his name became proverbial. People would say, "This man is like Nimrod, the greatest hunter in the world." He built his kingdom in the land of Babylonia, with the cities of Babylon, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh. From there, he expanded his territory to Assyria, building the cities of Nineveh, Rehoboth, Calah, and Resen. The great city located in between Nineveh and Calah. Mizraim was the ancestor of the Ludites, Anamites, Lehabites, Naphtuhites, Pathrusites, Chalcihites, and Caphtorites, from whom the Philistines came. Canaan's oldest son was Sidon, the ancestor of the Sidonians. Canaan was the ancestor of the Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites, Arkites, Sinites, Arvadites, Zemarites, and Hamathites. The Canaanite clans eventually spread out, and the territory of Canaan extended from Sidon in the north to Gerar and Gaza in the south and the east as far as Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboam, near Lasha. These were the descendants of Ham, identified by clan, language, territory, and national identity. 1 Chronicles 1, 8 through 6. If you're new to our daily devotions, we are in a chronological Bible. So there are times like today where we read from Genesis and then read from Chronicles because it's the same writing in two different places, just maybe worded slightly different. So we read them both at the same time. So if you hear me repeat myself, it's because I'm repeating myself. The descendants of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. The descendants of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, and Sabteca. The descendants of Rama were Sheba and Dedan. Cush was also the ancestor of Nimrod, who was the first heroic warrior on earth. Mizraim was the ancestor of the Ludites, Anamites, Levites, Naphtuhites, Pathrusites, Chalcihites, and the Caphtorites, from whom the Philistines came. Canaan's oldest son was Sidon, the ancestor of the Sidonians. Canaan was also the ancestor of the Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites, Arkites, Sinites, Arvadites, Zemarites, and Hamathites. The descendants of Shem, Genesis 10, 21 through 30. The sons were also born to Shem, the oldest brother of Japheth. Shem was the ancestor of all the descendants of Eber. The descendants of Shem were Elam, Asher, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram. The descendants of Aram were Uz, Hul, Gether, and Mash. Arphaxad was the father of Shelah, and Shelah was the father of Eber. Eber had two sons. The first was named Peleg, which means division, for during his lifetime the people of the world were divided into different language groups. His brother's name was Joktan. Joktan was the ancestor of Almadad, Sheleph, Hazarmaveth, Jireh, Hadoram, Uzal, Dikla, Obal, Abimiel, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. These were the descendants of Joktan. The territory they occupied extended from Mesha all the way to Sephir in the eastern mountains. 1 Chronicles 1, 17 through 23. The descendants of Shem were Elam, Asher, Arphaxad, Lud, Aram, and the descendants of Aram were Uz, Hul, Gether, and Mash. Arphaxad was the father of Shelah. Shelah was the father of Eber. Eber had two sons. The first was named Peleg, which means division, for during his lifetime the people of the world were divided into different language groups. His brother's name was Joktan. Joktan was the ancestor of Almodad, Shaleth, Zarmaveth, Jira, Hadoram, Uzal, Dikla, Obal, Abimiel, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. All of these were the descendants of Joktan. Genesis 10:31 through 32. These were the descendants of Shem, identified by clan, language, territory, and national identity. These are the clans that descended from Noah's son, arranged by nation according to their lines of descent. All the nations of the earth descended from these clans after the great flood. Okay. All right, let me pull up my devotional. So we are reading Believe Jesus Loves You by Valerie Pierce Andrews. John 15:12 is written on the front. That's why I said that. All right. All right, we're on page 14. To my mother. Dedicated to my mother, Florence Pierce White. Just because you're you. That's why I love you. You were there when I needed you most. When times were hard, you pushed on and said, I can, I must. Times of struggle and heartache, you saw and knew. That extra encouragement you gave to see me through. Love you for many reasons, and all these, the godly life you live, others see. A smile from you is a treasure of gold. You are truly a mother mold. Love you. Happy Mother's Day today and every day. Read this little note each time you feel alone or blue, okay? I love that. So her first few devotions are like written to people in her life. When we get to page 25, it'll be called Spiritual Moments. These are so cute. All right. Let me go read through the chat. Scroll back. Do you have fun reading reading all those names, Susan? You just wait. Those are nothing. It gets real. It's hard. It's Wednesday, Sarah. That's right. It's the unplanningest day of the week. I don't know, Faith. That's a good question. How many animals went on the boat and how many came off? I often think that, Meredith. That boat must have stunk hard. Oh, Kim. That stinks. Yeah, I agree with Meredith. Um, I love the book of Genesis. I can't even read it. I love the book of Genesis. I find it fascinating. A few years ago, I mapped out the generations before the flood, writing down all their ages and how they live, how their lives overlapped. I discovered that Methuselah, Noah's grandfather, died in the year of the flood. I wonder if he died before the flood or in the flood. So interesting. By the way, Lamech, Noah's father, died approximately 5 years before the flood. That is very interesting. That's super interesting, Amy. I really want to go to the Ark Encounter. Or I'm not terribly far. Yeah, I really want to go. Maybe this summer we'll take a trip up there. We'll see. I don't know. I think it's, I don't know, 8 hours or something from here. It's not terribly far, but I want to go to that and the Creation Museum. And I want to do the little zip line they have because if my mother can do it without freaking out, I can do it too. Mama Joyful can do the little zip line and not cry. Then I can manage to do the zip line and not cry. 'Tis my goal. Party at the Ark, right? Maybe we should have the retreat at the Ark. That'd be fun, actually. That'd be really cool. All right, my friends, let's go ahead and end our morning in a word of prayer. Father God, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for this opportunity to get up and start our day in your word. And thank you for the blessing that it is to each of us. And thank you for even the reading of all of these crazy to us names. And sometimes it feels like we're just reading names to read names, but I know there is purpose and understanding that comes from these generations, and it's very purposeful and meaningful. And I just pray that you will help us to gain wisdom while we read it, help us to gain understanding, open our hearts and our eyes to the message that you have for us each day. God, I thank you for each person here and their attentiveness and their them taking the time to come and join together before our King for devotions. And I'm so grateful for each and every one of them. And thank you for growing devotions. I pray that you will continue to grow and bless this ministry and just that the word can be spread through this this format. God, I pray for Kim today and her possible UTI. I pray that you'll clear that up quickly for her and heal her from that quickly. We continue to pray for Molly and thank you for all the leaps and bounds they're seeing with her. God, I pray for this situation going on with her blood, and it's so complicated and over my head, and I have no understanding of what's taking place. But God, I know that you do. You designed our bodies and you understand everything that is going on inside of little Molly. And I just pray for your healing of her and your blessings upon her and her family. God, I pray as we go through our day today that you will help us to just honor you every everything we say and do. Honor you with our food choices, honor you with our words, honor you with how we love and treat our family. And I just pray that um, you will just walk beside us and remind us of how ever present you are in our daily walk. In your precious name, I pray. Amen. All right, friends. Yeah, that's my big, hairy, scary goal, zip lining. Actually, I've always wanted to bungee jump. I always wanted to bungee jump until like the last 4 years. And now all of a sudden, I think I've matured in my fears and I've started to say, why would I jump off a perfectly good bridge that is holding me up? Why would I do that? But I would skydive. I would skydive right now. Right now. There was a plane in my front yard that came and picked me up. I would get on it this very minute and jump out of it. And I think that would be so much fun. All right, friends. So I'm going to go live in just a few minutes for breakfast. The thing that I'm making this morning is called Unlikely Heroes. I've made it live before, but it's been a long time. It's a super bizarre breakfast that every single time I make it, I'm like, this is going to be gross. And then I eat it and I'm like, this really good. And that's why it's called Unlikely Heroes because it's so much better than it sounds. Really, Faith? You would go skydive? Girl, we need to do it. Me and Faith. I'd skydive with you, Faith. There's indoor skydiving right down the road from here. Now that terrifies me. I'm afraid that I'll get thrown off kilter and like spin up into the ceiling and get knocked out, and it would just be so embarrassing. All right, friends, I love you so much. I hope to see you for breakfast in hopefully just a couple of minutes. I just need to set up my camera and get out my ingredients, and I will see you all then. All right. I love you guys so much. Thank you for joining this morning.